So, 2 years ago, I was on a boat leaving Sibiru, which is a small island in the Mentawai island chain. I was heading back to the mainland in Padang, Indonesia. I'd just spent a week trekking through the jungle and living with the native Mentawai tribe to learn about their culture and their spiritual and religious practices. And also just to be fully immersed in nature, in the jungle. I was really excited about that as well. I'd only arrived just a week before, so I was well aware that the boat journey was going to be a long one. It was 6 hours across the Indian Ocean. After getting back to the mainland, I had plans to travel to Papua New Guinea, where I was going to meet my brother and my dad. We had plans to just basically sit on an island for 2 weeks, drink coconuts, and surf all of the east coast of New Guinea. But to be honest, I wasn't really excited about that. Truth was, I hadn't seen my dad in nearly a year, and for the past couple of years before that, we hadn't really spoken at all. There was a time in my early 20s when I lived just a few minutes away from my dad, and I actually worked for him for 9 years as a carpenter. I did my apprenticeship with him. He taught me so much, and he passed down so much knowledge and skills. He paved a path for me to live a comfortable and stable life. That was what he offered me, and for that, I'll always be grateful. But as time went on and as I got older, I felt like something was missing. There was nothing objectively wrong about my life. I had a good job, I was getting paid well, I was in a relationship, I had friends, I was having a good time, but something deep down inside me, something was missing. Something deep down was pulling me in a different direction. I felt like there was somewhere else that I needed to be, and something else that I needed to be doing. I felt a calling to go out into the world and do something else with my life, to find out who I was, and also to find out what that thing could be. Communication was always a challenge in my family, especially when it came to my dad. Bless him. It was always a challenge trying to interpret and decipher the words that he wasn't saying and what he actually meant. Anyways, after a couple of years of feeling this pull, this desire to go out into the world and to do something else and to figure out who I was and what I was capable of, after a couple of years of feeling this way, I decided to speak to my dad about how I felt. I wanted to share with him this vision that I had of going out in the world and this desire to find out what I was made of and follow my passions. At this time in my life, my dad was my role model, my mentor, my idol. He gifted me life. He really cared for me at this point in my life. So I really cared about what he had to say. I really cared. His opinion mattered to me. So one day after work, it was a Friday afternoon, and the ritual every Friday, being an Aussie tradie, being a carpenter, was we would leave work, we would go to the bottle-o, we would buy a 3-pack of long necks of beers. For anyone that's wondering what a long neck is, they're like very large, like a liter big, something like that, of beer. And this Friday I decided I was going to wait for him to be in the best mood possible so that I could have this conversation with him. And Friday came, we bought the beers, we went to the lookout near the beach to check the surf and have a beer. And I waited for the right moment. No one else was there, it was just me and my dad. And I told him how I felt. I told him that I was starting to feel like maybe there was something else out there for me, and that I felt this calling to go and explore this thing, this passion, this whatever it was. I told him that I was thinking about maybe going and doing something else, trying that out. I was nervous when I told him because I wasn't sure how he would respond. And when I shared this with him, he didn't even look at me. He just looked out at the ocean, nodded his head a couple times, took a sip of beer, and then he turned around and he left. He walked to his car and he left. And things weren't the same after that. It took a couple of years before we started to speak again. It's only now that time has passed that he's been able to see the journey that I'm on, the path that I'm taking, and start to really accept and respect my decision to change. But for a long time there was no words spoken, and I still felt the weight of it all and the range of emotions that came with it. I felt upset that he didn't believe in my vision. I felt angry that he wasn't willing to speak to me. Mostly I felt guilty for, in his words, throwing my life away. The life that he had worked so hard to create for me. So as I sat on this boat with 6 hours ahead of me, I started to anticipate the moment where we would reconnect and how it was going to be. I was going to see him in less than 2 days, and still there was this tension of years of unspoken words still between us. So having all of these thoughts and emotions flowing through me, and having, for the first time in a long time, the time and space to really allow it to surface and to reflect on it all, being on this boat, I decided to write him a letter. I didn't intend to deliver the letter to him. I just wanted to write it for me so that I could clear my head. And so over the next 6 hours, I put pen to paper and I started to write all of the ways that I felt and all of the things that I thought about the situation and how things had played out over the last few years. Mostly I just was pouring all of my anger and frustration into this letter and into these words, trying to get him to understand my point of view and how I felt about the situation and where he went wrong and what he should have done differently. And I don't know, maybe an hour passed and I had a page of anger and frustration. And I realized that everything that I was writing, everything that I wanted, was just for him to see things from my point of view. And it occurred to me that I hadn't considered things from his point of view. And so I started to write all of the things that I could acknowledge about his experience in the situation and his effort and commitment to trying to be my dad and trying to provide for me. I started to write all of the things that I was grateful for and all the things that I appreciated in him. I started from when I was a kid, the earliest memories that I could remember, all the way up until the present day. And before I knew it, we were pulling into the port at the mainland in Padang, Indonesia. It had been 6 hours and I had spent the last 4 hours in tears crying. It was a huge emotional release. The process of writing this letter was one of the most healing things that I've ever done. It single-handedly repaired my relationship with my dad. It completely changed my perspective on things. My upbringing as a kid, the way that I viewed my dad as a person, it all completely changed. I was able to release so much anger and confusion and guilt in the process of writing this letter. Years of unspoken conflict and suppressed anger all dissolved. And all it took was for me to change the way that I felt about the situation, to change my perspective, and to take ownership of the role that I played in the situation, and to practice gratitude. Me and my dad have never been closer now, which I'm really grateful for. We see eye to eye, we view each other as our own people, we respect each other, and we accept each other for who we are, which is, it's nice. This is a very simple exercise, and I wasn't planning on sharing it with you here, but I had a change of heart. Something urged me to share it. If you have unresolved conflict or drama with another person and you feel like you never had the chance to express how you felt or what you needed in that situation. This is a powerful exercise that you can use to express all of the things that you were never able to, and to release all of that energy from your body, to release all of that, to find forgiveness and acceptance, not for anyone else, but for you. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope this exercise helps. I will see you in the next lesson. Peace.